the medical school does not teach students about something that is beyond the insight and wisdom of the physician. He said, you know, we don't know about the role of faith and spirituality in healing, and that is something that the divinity school can help us to understand. So I suggest that we are all here in this space, not by accident, but because we are on a journey together. And this conference has given us some markers. And so as we ponder the question of where should we go, then we should pay attention to those markers. Dr. Trulier in the Detroit contingency told us about how pastors in Detroit sustain hope through a ministry of presence by gathering together, sharing meals, cleaning up neighborhoods, bringing young people together in special camps, and just being connected and understanding what it means to lean on each other. Dr. Sanders, I just saw her a minute ago and I said, I walked past your workshop and I heard you preaching. She said, I wasn't preaching, I was just talking. But she talks then with this energy and spirit that is very powerful and very prophetic. So I heard her talking about creating something for our children, reclaiming neighborhoods for future generations. And I don't know if she said it today or not, but I have heard her talk about restoring the soul of the city. So we have among us these giants with all of this energy and power, and they are leaving markers for the journey. So we get an opportunity to put theory into practice when we talk about gentrification right here on these grounds in this neighborhood. Dr. Pollard and the Tuskegee contingency brought us a marker by directing attention to the healing initiatives coming forth from community gardens and support groups and economic stimulus projects coming out of Macon County, Alabama. Dr. Pollard also placed a marker for openness and inclusion. And I stepped into a workshop to take some pictures, and I heard Dr. Samuel talking about it's really all about conversations. It's an open conversation. It's an ongoing conversation. And that's where we go. We continue the conversation. But we go beyond the talk to the action. Someone asked me, well, what attracted you to this project? Why did you say yes when Dean Pollard asked you if you would consider this position? And I said mainly because it was praxis-oriented. It was not just some research that we would do and write up and talk to ourselves about and publish in a journal and put it on a shelf. There was another part to this. And so that's why I'm here. So when we talk about transformation and future and potential, I am reminded of a simple story that we all know. And it's the story about the caterpillar. How the caterpillar becomes the butterfly. And we all know that story well. The caterpillar is just kind of going along and just kind of eating and feeding and eating and feeding. A mundane life without thought of a destiny or future. And then goes into a state that appears to be dormant. You know how it is after you eat, you can kind of get that low, your energy goes down. Well, I imagine that's how it might be with the butterfly that's eating and eating, and all of a sudden it's kind of going to sleep. And there appears to be not much going on. I was talking to a biologist friend a few weeks ago, and she said, you know, the biologists talk about the imaginal cells. The imaginal cells actually cause the transformative process to So there are these cells then within that caterpillar that carries the DNA for a different destiny. But these cells, and I didn't know this part. I mean, I knew the simple story. I didn't know this part. But she explained to me that these imaginal cells have to fight. They have to go to war in order to fulfill the destiny.
Come on now.
Because not all of the cells are imaginal. Some of them want to hold on to what is familiar, a familiar form of life. But the imaginal cells went out. And the butterfly is able to take wing and flight. And so I think that we have among us some imaginal cells. And so our job is to coalesce and to come together and to strategize and then to determine then how we can change the story, how we can rewrite the narrative. Because those imaginal cells realize that if they tap into their very essence, to the soul of their being, that is what will allow the change to happen. And so that is what I believe we are called to do as imaginal cells. We have heard some amazing presentations. We've heard some provocative questions. Where do we go from here? That is the question before us. And I believe that we have a unique contribution to make to the co-creation of a new story. Dr. Boyd has painted a picture of the cascading violence of our time and has called us to a womanist ethic of care. And as I said, Dr. Warren reminded us that there is something inside so strong. That something is waiting to be activated for healing and wholeness. And everywhere out there in communities across the country, there are young people longing for guidance and direction. So where do we go from here? I think we each have to answer that question individually, and then we have to answer it collectively, because we all have a role to play. We are called to be activists, academics, prophetic preachers and professors, priestly scholars, and the caring community. So in thinking about the question, where do we go from here? I was reminded of some wise words that one of my mentors, James Lunette, said recently. And I'm always repeating this, and I'm saying, you know what, I wish I had thought of that. But I didn't, so I'm giving credit. But she says, some seeds only germinate in a forest fire, in the intense heat of a forest fire. The destiny of those seeds unfold, and they become flaming seeds. They give birth to a new future. They blossom rather than burn in perilous times. Last night, Dr. Harrison presented this fantastic multimedia performance presentation that came out of Community, God's Trombones Revisited. And we saw something old and something new. And we saw students who were drawing from a depth that they themselves didn't know they had. And that is what we have to not only think about, but do, act upon. A depth that is within us. Dr. Paula is always saying, go deeper. We're always quoting Howard Thurman around here. have asked me if this project will continue. And I said, well, I mean, they're in the final year of funding. However, I believe that we speak of things that are not as though they were, and we call them into existence. I believe that what we have seen here is the beginning of a community engagement initiative that will build upon our research findings and will create something new. I believe that the conversations that have taken place here have created some new synergy and some connectivity that will move forward into something new. As I was coming up to the podium, I heard some folk right over in here saying, you know, we need to get together and have us a little retreat. And I thought, well, that sounds good. And I imagine that there will be other little groups all around us that are coalescing, and these imaginal cells will be coming together, and we will be creating something new in community and in partnership and in collaboration. So where do we go from here? We will rewrite the story. And we live into a story of healing and wholeness. Some of you know that I lost my son last year to suicide. And some of you have asked me how I'm able to keep going. I am able to keep going because I have been surrounded by a community of loving people from all over the world. And that love has infused me with strength and power. And it has allowed me to stand and to speak when the unimaginative tragedy happened in my life. And when I heard the news, I was surrounded by a community of loving people. Dean Pollard and Dean Byron were sitting in a conference room waiting with me. And because my body knew that there was a trauma in my life. And yet, because I was in a community of love, I was able to overcome and to heal and to stand and to establish a foundation in my son's memory and in honor of him, to help other people who are dealing with mental health issues. So I was in a workshop, and this is not part of the script. I was in a workshop this afternoon, and as destiny would have it, I walked in just as someone was asking a question about the church and mental health. And I thought, oh my gosh, you know. Is that synchronicity? Is that spirit? What is that? But I imagine that as we coalesce and come together in community and we ponder the question of where do we go from here, we will find that in our communities and in our churches, we have what we need to move forward